Welcome, everyone. It's Kelly Nault from Joyfully Parenting, and I am delighted to have a guest return to share with us really the secret of getting our young children off their devices, but without a lot of tantrums. Now, you might not even consider that your child is a spirited or strong willed child. And yet, many children, even those who are sensitive children or pretty just on the straight and narrow generally, can become very strong willed with their devices. So, I am here to welcome Susie Raisch. Did I say that right, Susie?
Yes,
Good,
absolutely.
good, good, good. We had her here a couple weeks back to talk about, is your preteen really ready for their cell phone? Susie is a national speaker and she's the founder of tangledball.com, which is a cyberbullying prevention and leadership resource for parents, teachers, and anyone who cares about kids. She's also the author of, get this, I love the name, Superheroes Wear Mom Jeans. And welcome back. It's so lovely to have you.
Thanks, Kelly. I so appreciate it. And this is one of my all-time favorite subjects.
Great. So, Susie, one of the things I so appreciate about how you discuss this topic is that you talk about being online, especially for children in this day and age, as the new neighborhood. Can you just briefly tell us about that for parents who aren't familiar?
Sure. Well, us as adults, we think of ourselves in two separate pods. Our offline lives, that's like going to work, being with our friends, and then our online lives, where we take some time for ourselves to hang out on our social media platforms or watch YouTube videos. But I think that we will be raising healthier children. And by healthier, I mean physically, mentally, emotionally, even relationally. If we understand that kids now have been born into this world of technology, they're surrounded, and they do not distinguish between the two. So basically, we are parenting in a whole new neighborhood.
Wow. So we've entered the video game, so to speak. It's
And that's not a terrible thing. There's a lot of great things about the new neighborhood. I was just reading an interview by this doctor by the name of Dr. Michael Rich. He's a mediatrician, and he said, "Listen, we have to embrace this. We have to take some of the fear and some of the guilt out of it."
So I know you have 3 tips, especially for parents with young children, on how to best navigate this in a healthy way. So truly their children's device time is supportive, does help them stay regulated, does help them stay connected. What is
Mhm.
your first one, Susie?
Parents are overloaded right now. And so these 3 tips are really to not to add to your plate, but actually to, in the long run, to take things off of your plate, including some worry. So, my very first one is about us. It's about checking in on our own cell phone and technology habits. There are a lot of reasons why, but the ones that stick out the most for me are that when with infants and toddlers, the way they learn language is the uninterrupted flow of language between us and them. And when we get a ping or get some other distraction, that's really a challenge for kids to learn language. I've been talking to a couple of teachers, kindergarten through second grade, and they name that as one of the major challenges they're beginning to see. The kids are not coming to school with language skills appropriate for their ages.
Okay.
That
Still
has been
text,
the obstacle.
still text, do all of that, but at least if you can within your day, compartmentalize a bit more that I am going to be really present and I'm turning this off for a little bit can make a huge difference.
Exactly. It's amazing how we're not really super aware of our own habits that way. And everybody is in this to do the best possible job that they can. So it's something to really think about. A lot of parents, when we turn to the new year, one of their resolutions was strategizing about their own media habits, which is a great idea.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm ready for tip number 2.
So tip number two is to be intentional. And what I mean by that is to do strategy around cell phone use and social media use with by design and not by default. And it's not that difficult to do. First of all, you have to decide how much screen time you want your children to have. There are a lot of great resources that give guidelines, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Health Organization.
Mhm.
But in the end, it's your decision. So I think that is number one. Number two, by design, decide what you want them to see, what you want them to interact with. Also, you don't have to start from scratch. It's great to be able to sit down and do all these things with your children, but realistically, especially during these times, not so easy. But there are also resources that help do the homework for you. One of them is commonsensemedia.org, and it's a tremendous resource, very popular for a very good reason. So, multiple genres, whether it's books, TV, movies, uh, games, apps, they will actually, if you go online, you can even plug in how old your child is to get recommendations. They review them, they give you an idea of whether this is something that you want your kids to be able to consume.
Great, great resource. And so, Susie, I know you mentioned this, I believe, in the last interview, is also just having a list of pre screened videos, things that you're cool with them watching. I think, especially at this time, that it's really important to have that just at the ready,
Mhm.
especially if something unexpected or a meeting comes up that's unexpected, or you didn't get much sleep last night and you need a nap desperately. The other thing I'm wondering about from the language skills is that at least when you know what they're watching, you can also then still have a conversation with them after to say, what part of Arthur did you really like? What part of, the story, at least to still have connection with them and to foster that conversation.
Absolutely. And of course, not every day goes perfectly. Some days
Rarely.
right. Parenting is sloppy, but it's actually, again, taking worry off your plate if you've already picked something that you feel very confident about. There are some wonderful things that actually expand them educationally. You do have to be careful. It is good to go to a resource like the one I just mentioned,
Yeah.
because something can say educational and not really be educational. But if you are sure of yourself, if you're confident in your choices, it could be a wonderful thing. Being intentional also means being intentional about what you're doing when it does not involve a screen. So it also means, yes, establish screen time and also balance that with other things. So balance it with playtime and other things that expand their worlds.
Totally. And for me, it's also balancing with just exercise, making sure that there's enough in the day that balances the time where we're sitting still.
Exactly.
So,
Very, very, very important.
your third tip, here's the one that really resonated with me because when you said this, Susie, and it sounds so common sense, you're like, well, yeah, sure. But I would like you to take us through it because I actually don't know many of my clients who are actually doing this yet because they're going to watch this and then I bet you they'll be inspired to.
Mhm.
But tell us about the importance of teaching your child to turn off their devices.
Again, as you mentioned, it is very, very simple. And we know even the youngest of children know how to use devices. It just, for some reason, they were born with this chip that they know how to do it. But it has to be pointed out to them again how long they're supposed to be on screen time. And then that's, even if they're young and they don't really understand time, they do understand time when you say, okay, it's two episodes of Daniel the Tiger. That makes up, I think, about an hour. But at the end of it, teach them how to turn the device off and expect that they will do that. And if it's a handheld, they can turn the device off and bring it back to you. So it's actually teaching them it's self-regulation, which is a great tool to have. It's really just handing you the opportunity to teach them that. Now, with that, I'm not saying that they will be totally happy and that they won't have a meltdown because kids are very emotional about the technology and the devices. So tantrums are not easy, but I think I take a page out of your book, Kelly, but consistency is really important, and it happens over time. So you really, it's a really good idea to just stick with it.
Absolutely. For me, the follow through is so critical. And Susie, I love what you talk about in terms of expectations, but I also think to balance that, if a parent knows that they aren't able to follow through, especially if they have a strong willed child, it's often better to not set the expectations until they feel confident that they can follow through, because children watch what we do far more than they ever listen to what we say. That's
It's so
just
true.
the fact. And so if you're saying, yeah, yeah, you only get, two, what did you call it? The tiger? Which one? I don't know
Daniel the
that one.
tiger.
Okay, I don't know that one. I'm gonna have to look that one up. And then yet, three go by or four go by. The next time you're just teaching them that what you say really doesn't matter. And so next time, if you do say, no, no, it's just two, they're gonna fight you more. But do you have any further advice on how parents can use devices as a real tool versus a pacifier or a babysitter? And let's face it, there's days where you just need that pacifier or babysitter. But are there ways ahead of time of those crazy days to lay the foundation so that they don't feel so much guilt?
Oh, definitely. And it's a great question about using it as a tool and not a pacifier. Again, it goes back to planning a little bit and having some tools in your toolbox that you say, okay, this has been vetted. I don't have a chance to sit down with my child, but this is something that is I can engage with them on later. And so again, taking some of the guilt out. If you're making really good choices, it's not being used as something to pacify them. It's something that you can build on later.
Right. I'm also seeing that, for instance, if a child is on Zoom, that oftentimes they're then on the side searching things or looking things up and not being present. And that's something in our household that we try to strive to do. And in my little girls book club, we've also been talking to the parents that when we're on Zoom together, I'm not there, so I don't know if they're getting distracted. And so having our computers and devices in common areas, I think, is also really useful to just keep kind of checking in.
1000%. And you bring up a really good point. It makes when we're being intentional, it's also very intentional about where you're using devices. When you're not using devices, such as mealtime or homework or right before bedtime. So that is great also to balance out when they do see it.
Yeah. Susie, I just love having you on, and it's been such an honor for me to get to know you. And I just have a feeling this friendship's going to continue. Love all the wisdom you've shared. And in the notes, I will also have how people can contact you. I know tangleball.com is one of the easiest ways. And I just thank you again for bringing your wisdom, your care, and you have such a well of compassion for parents and where they're at. And that's something I just so admire in you. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly, and thank you for all the great work that you share with people. So I appreciate it. I love spending time with you.